Um, so I'm just going to start recording some videos about trauma because I've just been through a lot of trauma. So it's very fresh, and so yeah, I can't guarantee it, but yeah, you may see trauma come up through me as I'm talking through all of this because I'm talking, it's yeah, very, very fresh. So I'm putting together a playlist where yeah, I'll be talking about it because I've experienced severe trauma through my life. Like I've had a couple of really key points in my life where I experienced massive turbulent trauma. Um, and once again, if you see I encourage you to see the video before this where I just show the wreckage of my bus, my home, my bubbles, and that she was yeah, my everything. I have nothing as far as possessions. Like Bubbles was it. She was the home I lived in. She was the vehicle I drove. She was my security, very basic security. So a tree came, just the most astronomical chance in the world. A tree fell and landed directly on top of Bubbles, and she's destroyed. So I want to talk about how that experience played out for me, how it felt, and I want to just sort of build a bit of a series of videos about trauma and everything, because I can see that there's some gifts that I can share from this, because I'm not the only. I don't see this as just being just about me. Like I know millions and millions of people on this planet experience trauma, day in, day out. And, some traumas are worse, some are better. It doesn't really matter, because a traumatic experience is a traumatic experience. So, there was one moment where I was sort of comparing myself to, like someone in the Gaza Strip having, been bombed and lost their house and their children and stuff like that. Like, it just doesn't serve to, first up, it just doesn't serve you or anyone else to do that, to make them to kind of devalue somebody's trauma, to devalue your own experience with trauma, because no matter what it is that's coming up, it's affecting you and your psychology, and you have to sit with yourself here. Like, something I'm sort of realizing through this experience, we have this inbuilt sort of mechanism in our minds where, we keep everything in order. And, there's kind of like negative aspects to putting, compartmentalizing everything, but it actually stops us from losing our minds by having everything in order. So if I can give, from the experience I had, and I'll just try and explain how just a concrete way to just explain that. So one moment, I'm sitting in my home, my normality, a world that, has just always stayed the same, with the same furnishings, everything all in its place and everything. And I'm just sitting there doing my normal thing. I can't recall. I think I was up at my computer doing something lovely. I was trying to do something lovely, a gift for people, and next thing I heard a crack outside, and I knew that it was. My thought was, oh, it's a big branch that's about to fall. That's the sound of the crack. It sounded quite loud, and then, I wasn't thinking a whole tree is falling on top of me, because it was a big, heavy tree. Like, it was big. And next thing, like, the next split second, just the crash, and the ceiling caved in, and, I'm watching my poor cat just bolt up to the back of the bus, and just it's just like in a split second, everything went from normal to just absolute destruction and chaos, glass everywhere, and I can't tell you how much time passed. I sat there like just taking it in, not even screaming. You can't do this, just no rational response to this, because the mind had the world in order, and it had never changed. You know what I mean? There'd been little changes, put up a bit of art here or there, little changes, not like this sudden, complete, chaotic upheaval of everything, like there would be in a fire, or a bombing or something like that, or a dismemberment of the body, or just in this moment of shock. So things go from the way it has consistently been, to being completely different. And so I actually spent a fair bit of time like just trying to rationalize, and I finally sort of got to this point where it was like I could just see, Bubbles is destroyed. And that's sort of like step one. Okay, we can put that in a compartment. Bubbles is destroyed. But then, what comes after that, the whole sheer processing of that destruction, it just continues on, because, you go outside and you see it's an entire massive tree, and realization that, wow, if it had landed this just in a slightly different direction, I would have been killed. It would have just crushed, gone straight on top of my head. It's just constant. It's a constant sort of, like just something's radically different, and you've got to take that in. So, that's what trauma experience is. It totally blows apart the security you've had in your mind. There's a physical outer security, obviously, my home, my wheels, my house, whatever it is. But then there is an emotional security, there's a mental security, there's an identity security. It's it's a psychologically discombobulating experience. Everything gets tossed up and just thrown into disarray. It's very, very destabilising. And I think we do have trauma relief and out there, but really when it comes to the immediate trauma, I don't think there's actually a lot. I was talking with my brother as, I experienced, I went out yesterday to, I couldn't look for a while. I did all the crazy things that you got to do to salvage what I could and get my cat out and stuff like that. But it was very, very dangerous situation, and I was quite scared. I'm scared of trees now. I really want to heal these, because I love trees, but I can't actually walk near them anymore. But and you could say that's irrational, but the irrational happened to me. So I saw Bubbles yesterday for the first time since the overnight, and it was the first time, and I nearly threw up. I just went into this massive panic attack, and I called one of my brothers. I just needed someone to talk me down, because I knew what was happening, and I knew this will pass and everything, and I was being compassionate with myself and understanding. And Pip and I was sort of talking about it, and he said, are there any sort of trauma services, where you can get instant help? And I was kind of like, well, no, not really. And I know there's Lifeline and Beyond Blue, but they tend to sort of put you in contact with a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They help you find the counselling that you need, but there is actually instant trauma response that can be helpful, and I'm going to find a way to offer myself in that way, because I know what people need, when the world goes into chaos, which is just to be heard, and, to have someone to just, be that still space and everything. And and to be compassionate and to confirm that what you're feeling is normal and it is natural and it is okay, and you have to honor every last bit of it. You have to honor that, I was crying all night, and some would say, oh, what a baby or whatever, but it was like, no, I had to just keep crying and crying and crying. I had to allow myself to just be okay with having a panic attack, like not like I'm sort of failing psychologically with all of the work I've done. It's okay. It is okay to freak out because, it's just, like your poor mind cannot make sense of it. It's a complete scrambling of everything, like we are inbuilt with these safety mechanisms where it is perfectly natural and normal to compartmentalize and keep everything in order in the mind. It's a natural thing and it is not a bad thing, and we can consciously work on dismantling it. But there are times when you are experiencing trauma, whether it's like a PTSD type one where, it's your past coming back to be re-experienced, which happens to everybody, and that's where people don't quite get it, that because it's like, well, there's nothing bad happening to you now, so, what's your problem? Well, it's triggered. It's triggered. The trauma response is triggered. And, sure, to you, the outer events don't seem like that, but to the person who's experiencing it, they are. The trauma is very, very real. And I'm going to do my part to find ways to sort of educate people about this and everything, that it is okay when you experience trauma, whether it's the instant of trauma or the trauma memory revisiting you, which it's my trauma experience is going to keep revisiting me, and I am going to honor every single step of that experience, no matter how it comes through. It's got to come through my body. So, lots of body work and just allowing my body to do it. If it has to throw up, okay, whatever, through my emotional body with, the emotions that have got to come out, there's all sorts. Through my mental body, I'm talking now, I'm explaining all of this to you now, like, I to process it, there's a lot of also, I've got to start putting things back together by, building practical ways forward. And that's happening. And I am going to talk in another video, because I think saying everything in this one video, it's just sort of, I just want to go step by step with this process. And my identity body, so, my sense of like, it's just helped me to sort of come to quite a few understandings that, I am human. And I think, somewhere in my identity, it was sort of like, well, I'm not human, I'm a spiritual being. And yes, I'm a spiritual being, but I'm still a human being, with a body, a whole soul body, which is a structure that allows me to be on earth. This will go when I ascend from the planet. But and the me that I really am, which is beyond all of this, that ascends. But right now, this is what I've got, and this is what you've got. So I think it's really important to accept it. So I've shifted my identity in that way. There's a lot more, and I will talk through it as it comes. Like I said, this is all fresh, okay? So this is video number 1 of just putting together a trauma series, okay? So my gift to you is sharing this, and thank you for listening. Okay, bye-bye.